We are living in a volatile political environment. You could put half of Trump supporters into what I call the basket of deplorable.
Come on, man.
If the Trump administration approves a vaccine before or after the election, should Americans take it, and would you take it?
If the public health professionals, if Dr. Fauci, if the doctors tell us that we should take it, I'll be the first in line to take it. Absolutely. But if Donald Trump tells us that we should take it, I'm not taking it.
Come on, man. And if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
It was a debate.
And we are live. So I want to start off this episode with a fuck you to the Seattle Times. They said Joe Kent had no chance of winning. Well, people, this is the reason you go out and vote.
Washington's 3rd congressional district, and we got a big
Oh, yeah. Look at that. Let's go, Joe Kent. Yeah.
Oh yeah, there we go. Joe Kent trailed in the polls on Friday of last week and came in with the win on Monday. That is a Trump-backed candidate that was not supposed to win. I don't know if the red wave is coming, but it's definitely getting close to the shores of Seattle. So, welcome everyone to another episode of the Deplorable Talk Show. You are here with Mr. Deplorable himself, Israel Perez. Now, you might be wondering, what is this disastrous thing I stumbled upon on YouTube or Rumble? Well, you've stumbled upon a show where I give my unfiltered opinion on politics and culture. This is not a show for kids, nor is it a show for the intellectual-minded. I know nothing about the things I choose to talk about, but this is America, where opinions are just like assholes. Everyone has one. I just choose to record mine and spread it on the internet. So, we will start off today's show with the video of he/she complaining about how the law university they/it is attending is not using their proper pronouns. Now, if you are confused, I understand because I am too. And that will be in our first segment of the day called Today in TikTok. We will then jump into today's big lead, which will be about the unprecedented raid of a former president of the United States estate by the FBI. It is a consequential, bold move. And we will close the show out with our last segment of the day called The Unexplained, where we will talk about the weaponization of governmental agencies against American citizens. And depending on where you sit on the political spectrum, this is either a right-wing conspiracy theory or a planned effort by the uniparty deep states. So, the question of the day, based on the events this week from the IRS expansion to the raid on Mar-A-Lago, do you believe there is a plan to weaponize government agencies against Americans? Now, let me know in the comments below. But before we get into our first segment, Nancy, I like to start wars Pelosi, said this gem last week that scares the shit out of me because she's a diplomat that started a world conflict. Let's give this a watch.
Sources of strength is democracy. I said at a meeting earlier with the parliamentarians, in our earliest days of our founding of our country, Benjamin Franklin presidency said, freedom and democracy. Freedom and democracy on one thing, security here. If we don't have, we can't have either if we don't have both. So, security, economics, security, economy, and again, they're all, and governance, they're all related, and we want, come on, to always have freedom with security, and we're not backing away from that. Okay?
What does that mean? What does that mean? Jesus. Hold on, I need to crack one of these, man. I think she said, Benjamin Franklin, our presidency, said freedom and democracy. Freedom and democracy. One thing, security here. If we don't have, we can't have either. If we don't have both. Well, I don't think he said any of that. And trust me, I looked. So here's some famous quotes from Benjamin Franklin. Rebellion to tyrants is obedience to God. From Persuasion that equal liberty was originally the portion, it is still the birthright of all men. Every man is of common right, and by the laws of God, a free man, and entitled to the free enjoyment of liberty. All the property that is necessary to a man for the conservation of the individual is his natural right, which none can justly deprive him of. Now, I don't know about you, but none of those quotes sound like anything Nancy was trying to say. Maybe it was this quote she was trying to paraphrase. Those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. That's one of the leaders of our free world that probably pushed us into World War III. Anyways, this brings us into our first segment of the day. We have to make a sacrifice of brain cells to the Chinese deity known as TikTok in a segment called Today in TikTok.
Today in TikTok.
So, this is a segment where we will be showing the cringe of TikTok. In my opinion, it's depleting the American mind by letting the worst of us create content. And for those who are unaware, TikTok is a clone of the Chinese app Douyin. The content on Douyin is full of self-improvement, photography, travel, calligraphy, life hack, trivia, dance, and of course, adorable dog and cat videos. The content on TikTok is garbage most of the time. And here's an example.
Today has been day 4 of law school, and I spent the morning with the Dean of Diversity and Inclusion because I have been misgendered so many times by the faculty of this university, which claims to stand on progressive principles. And so I go to this Dean, and this Dean tells me that I need to exercise grace and patience in the small things. I'm like, listen, lady, this is not a small thing. Being misgendered is distressing. It's dysphoric. And I explained to her how hard it is to try to figure out why people keep seeing me as a female. And she's like, okay, well, you can escalate it to the Title IX director. I'm like, listen, the Title IX director was on a webinar yesterday misgendering people, to which this lady had no solutions for me on where to go next. And if this hasn't been a learning experience about how broken our system is and why policies need to change and how much bureaucracy there is and how much the system is set in its ways and why we need really good attorneys, then I don't know what is.
Okay. I think he is going to have a hard time assimilating into the real world. No one's going to hold your hand like that. I'm sorry. But like usual, we are using libs of TikTok from Twitter. The reason being is because most TikTokers change their name or delete their account because they have been exposed. But the internet is forever. You can't hide. So here's another post from a different account of he/them/her/she/dyke/representative of white guilt, maybe? Now, it was trying to relate to the black community in a way that doesn't make sense. And here's that clip.
So I live on the south side of Chicago, and for those of you who are not familiar with Chicago, I live in a predominantly black area. And since coming out as non-binary, I have faced this conundrum that I'm still trying to figure out. So whenever black men see me, they always, and this is not failed a single time, they always call me brother.
They don't
and sometimes
believe you.
They'll step back and they will just straight up ask me, do you want me to call you brother or do you want me to call you sister? And I will tell them, and they will go on respecting what I have just told them. And this just boggles my mind because white folks, I don't know what it is. I can introduce myself. I can tell them my pronouns. I can tell them how I want to be identified. And they will just go on fucking it up, even after I've corrected them multiple times.
Okay.
I don't know what the magic is that black men possess, that they can just see my identity and they respect it. But it makes me feel so seen and safe and respected. So we got to spread that shit to the rest of the world.
Okay. I don't believe you. But we did find out it's a he. And I love the Ebonics switch up when talking about white folk. The left likes to talk about black America like they understand it because they have inserted themselves into the black neighborhoods. Black Americans have no choice but to accept you because you are the one gentrifying their neighborhoods. You are forcing change on them and displacing them while labeling yourself as diverse and using out-of-context interactions with the black community to gain social points within your cults. You are the problem. Did you see what I posted, guys, about the black community that I live in? I'm so diverse. It's so cool that they're so accepting of me. Get the fuck out of here. And that was Today in TikTok.
Today in TikTok.
Freedom is strong.
Don't trust China. China is asshole.
So this brings us to the big lead for today. The Biden administration has officially crossed the Rubicon. The decision to raid Donald Trump's estate in Mar-A-Lago is the point of no return. It is an unprecedented action that has opened up a box that cannot be closed by the Democrats. Their desperate attempts to keep Trump from running in the 2024 presidential election has shown the American people there is no line uncrossable for them. If nothing comes of this and it was just a desperate, politically motivated last-ditch effort to find something to indict him on, the Democrats have sealed their fate with future criminal indictments once the Republicans take control of the House and Senate. If the Republicans win the trifecta in 2024, all bets are off. I want to see no prisoners. I want them to demolish the FBI, gut the DOJ, and take every inch of power the newly weaponized IRS has. Get rid of the bureaucratic state that FDR created by his expansion of the government. No more games. I'm done with the Republicans being fence sitters. If the House reps and senators don't want to get in the ring and fight for us, we need to primary them and get someone else in who will make the hard decisions, who will put America first, and who will stand up to the bureaucratic state and say enough is enough. No, I felt like I buried the lead there with that rant. CNN writes, FBI executes search warrant at Trump's Mar-A-Lago in document investigation. The FBI executed a search warrant Monday at Donald Trump's Mar-A-Lago resort in Palm Beach, Florida, as a part of an investigation into the handling of presidential documents, including classified documents that may have been brought there. Three people familiar with the situation told CNN. The former president confirmed that FBI agents were at Mar-a-Lago and said they even broke into my safe. He was at Trump Tower in New York when the search warrant was executed in Florida, a person familiar told CNN. Quote, my beautiful home, Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach, Florida, is currently under siege, raided and occupied by a large group of FBI agents, end quote, Trump said in a statement Monday evening. The extraordinary move to search the home of former president raises the stakes for the Justice Department and comes as Trump's legal problems continue on multiple fronts. Trump is also expected in the coming months to announce he will launch another bid for the White House in 2024. So, the FBI raided the house of President Trump, not while he was there, but away on business because they didn't have the balls to do it when he was there. They conducted a 9-hour search, tearing the house apart and even going through Melania's wardrobe, probably pocketing some panties. You know, J. Edgar Hoover would have been proud. So after all that, the FBI/DOJ only left with 15 bucks that they knew President Trump had in his basement. CNN also writes, in early June, a handful of investigators made a rare visit to the property seeking more information about potential classified material from Trump's time in the White House that had been taken to Florida. The 4 investigators, including Jay Barrett, the chief of the Counterintelligence and Export Control Section at the Justice Department, sat down with 2 of Trump's attorneys, Bob and Evan Corcoran, according to the source present for the meeting. At the beginning of the meeting, Trump stopped by and greeted the investigators near the dining room. After he left without answering any questions, and I like how they threw that in there, the investigators asked the attorneys if they could see where Trump was storing documents. The attorneys took the investigation to the basement room, where the boxes of materials were being stored, and the investigators looked around the room before eventually leaving, according to the source. A second source said that Trump came in to say hi and made small talk, but left while the attorney spoke with investigators. The source said some of the documents shown to the investigators had top secret markings. 5 days later, on June 8th, Trump's attorney received a letter from investigators asking them to further secure the room where the documents were stored. Aides subsequently added a padlock to the room. So, they were aware that he possessed these documents. Why didn't they take them right away if he wasn't supposed to have them? And the more pressing question here is, why would you need a search warrant for documents you already know he had? Why cause a commotion when all you had to do was go there and say, hey, those documents, we need them back? That's all you had to say. It's like, Jesus. No, they didn't need a search warrant for that. They didn't need to tear apart the house and break into his safe if they already knew where the documents were. This has political ploy written all over it. The FBI and DOJ are conducting a political agenda investigation for the Biden administration, in my opinion. Donald Trump issued a statement shortly after the news broke about his estate being raided by the FBI. These are dark times for our nation, as my beautiful home, Mar-A-Lago in Palm Beach, Florida, is currently under siege, raided and occupied by a large group of FBI agents. Nothing like this has ever happened to a president of the United States before. After working and cooperating with the relevant government agencies, this unannounced raid on my house was not necessary or appropriate. It is prosecutorial misconduct, the weaponization of the justice system, and an attack by radical left Democrats who desperately don't want me to run for the president in 2024. Especially based on recent polls, and who will likewise do anything to stop Republicans and conservatives in the upcoming midterm elections. Such an assault could only take place in a broken third world country. Sadly, America has now become one of those countries, corrupt at a level not seen before. They even broke into my safe. What is the difference between this and Watergate, where operatives broke into the Democratic National Committee? Here, in reverse, Democrats broke into the home of the 45th President of the United States. The political persecution of President Donald Trump has been going on for years, with the now fully debunked Russia scam, Impeachment Hoax 1, Impeachment Hoax 2, and so much more. It just never ends. It is political targeting at the highest level. No, he's not wrong. What sends this whole mess further down a rabbit hole is the judge who signed the search warrants, Judge Bruce Reinhart. So Reinhart is the magistrate judge for the Southern District of Florida. Technically, Reinhart can sign off on the search warrant, but realistically, the warrant should have been signed by an Article 3 judge, which an Article 3 judge would have denied the search warrant instantly because of the ramifications this might bring. But that's just semantics, right? Judge Reinhart, though, has an odd background, which is leading people to wonder if his background could be the reason why he signed the unprecedented search warrants. The Miami Herald wrote, on October 23rd, 2007, as federal prosecutors in Southern Florida were in the midst of a tense negotiation to finalize a plea deal with accused sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein, a senior prosecutor in their office was quietly laying out plans to leave the U.S. Attorney's Office after 11 years. On that day, as emails were flying between Epstein's lawyer and federal prosecutors, Bruce E. Reinhart, now a federal magistrate, opened a limited liability company in Florida that established what would become his new criminal defense practice. That stated address, according to Florida state corporate records, was the same location and identical suite number as Epstein's lead attorney, Jack Goldberg. By the end of the year, Reinhart had resigned his post in the Southern District of Florida, within days on Jan 2nd, 2008, he was hired to represent several of Epstein's accused accomplices who would later, like Epstein, receive federal immunity for alleged trafficking underage girls. Interesting. Now, I'm not implying that this is related to Epstein, but it does make me wonder what's in those documents that the FBI seized. Now, if there is one thing I am implying, is that Reinhart is a crooked fuck. It also doesn't look good that Reinhart has donated to Obama, Jeb Bush, and Hillary Clinton, He also believes in CRT and has condemned Trump for his comments about woke individuals. So maybe his decision to sign the search warrant had some bias behind it. I don't know. At the end of the day, it's all just speculation. But what is not speculation is the anger and fear this genie has sparked in many politicians. The raid definitely puckered up the butthole of former Governor Andrew Cuomo. Shortly after the news broke about Mar-A-Lago, Andrew Cuomo tweeted this. DOJ must immediately explain the reason for its raid, and it must be more than a search for in consequential archives, or it will be viewed as a political tactic and undermine any future credible investigations and legitimacy of Jan 6th. Okay. Yeah, he then followed up his tweet with this. DOJ must disclose a bona fide nature of the August 8th action, or else the Republicans will use it to discredit the Jan 6th investigation, which would be a terrible disservice to the good work of the House committee in exposing the Trump administration's violations. Okay, Cuomo. I will say this. Andrew Cuomo is not worried about the legitimacy of Jan 6th. That is a cover for his true fear, which is the Republicans coming after him for falsifying COVID hospitalizations by moving infected patients into nursing homes, which resulted in the deaths of hundreds of elderly patients. Good try, Cuomo. So on the Republican side, it was Kevin McCarthy's tweet that summed up the future consequences that this raid opened up for Democrats. I've seen enough. The Department of Justice has reached an intolerable state of weaponized politicization. When Republicans take back the House, we will conduct immediate oversight of this department, follow the facts, and leave no stone unturned. Attorney General Garland, preserve your documents and clear your calendar. No, I will believe it when I see it. But those are the kind of words I want to hear Republicans say right now, because the Department of Justice is being weaponized against Trump. This raid was planned weeks before it happened, and they made sure to do it when Trump was not at Mar-A-Lago. Newsweek writes, the raid on Mar-A-Lago was based largely on information from an FBI confidential human source, one who was able to identify what classified documents from former President Trump was still hiding, and even the location of those documents, two senior government officials told Newsweek. The officials who have direct knowledge of the FBI's deliberation and were granted anonymity in order to discuss sensitive matters said the raid of Donald Trump's Florida residence was deliberately timed to occur when the former president was away. FBI decision makers in Washington and Miami thought that denying the former president a photo opportunity or platform from which to grandstand or attempt to thwart the raid would lower the profile of the event. They fucking thought wrong. Says one of the sources, a senior Justice Department official who is a 30-year veteran of the FBI. The effort to keep the raid low-key failed. No shit. Instead, it prompted a furious response from GOP leaders and Trump supporters. I know that, says the justice official, I know that there is much speculation out there that this is a political persecution, but it is really the best and the worst of the bureaucracy in action. The official says they wanted to punctuate the fact that this was a routine law enforcement action, stripped of any political overtones, and yet they got exactly the opposites. No, a spectacular backfire it is. This raid didn't hurt Trump. If anything, it has pushed Trump further up in the polls, and it also gave him a chance to put out this rallying cry of a campaign-style video.
We are a nation in decline. We are a failing nation. We are a nation that has the highest inflation in over 40 years. where the stock market just finished the worst first half of a year in more than 5 decades. We are a nation that has the highest energy cost in its history, and we are no longer energy independent or energy dominant, which we were just 2 short years ago. We are a nation that is begging Venezuela and Saudi Arabia for oil. We are a nation that surrendered in Afghanistan, leaving behind dead soldiers and American citizens and $85 billion worth of the finest military equipment in the world. We are a nation that allowed Russia to devastate a country, Ukraine, killing hundreds of thousands of people, and it will only get worse. We're a nation that has weaponized its law enforcement against the opposing political party like never before. We've never seen anything like this. We're a nation that no longer has a free and fair press. Fake news is about all you get. We are a nation where free speech is no longer allowed, where crime is rampant like never before, where the economy has been collapsing, where more people died of COVID in 2021 than in 2020. We're a nation that is allowing Iran to build a massive nuclear weapon and China to use the trillions and trillions of dollars it's taken from the United States to build a military to rival our own. We are a nation that over the past 2 years is no longer respected or listened to all around the world. And we are a nation that is hostile to liberty and freedom and faith. We are a nation whose economy is floundering, whose stores are not stocked, whose deliveries are not coming, and whose educational system is ranked at the bottom of every list. We are a nation that in many ways has become a joke. But soon we will have greatness again. It was hardworking patriots like you who built this country, and it is hardworking patriots like you who are going to save our country. There is no mountain we cannot climb. There is no summit we cannot reach. There is no challenge we cannot meet. There is no victory we cannot have. We will not bend. We will not break. We will not yield. Ever, ever, ever. We will never give in, we will never give up, and we will never, ever back down. We will never let you down as long as we are confident and united. The tyrants we are fighting do not stand even a little chance. Because we are Americans, and Americans kneel to God and God alone. And it is time to start talking about greatness for our country again.
Hell yeah. The best is yet to come. Here's to that. So, let's close this segment out with a little laugh, huh? Of course, not missing a chance to capitalize on this event, Hillary Clinton popped out of the woodwork with what I would call a distasteful merch push. Every but her emails, hat, or shirt sold helps Onward Together, partners defend democracy, build a progressive bench, and fight for our values. Just saying. And look at that shit. She obviously, got a picture of her from decades ago. And photoshopped but her emails onto the hat she was wearing. It's gross. And she even made a point to pin that tweet on her Twitter accounts. Look at that shit. And for those who don't know, Hillary Clinton committed the same crime that they are trying to accuse Donald Trump of, but when she found out the FBI was looking into the classified documents and emails on her private server in the basement of her house, she destroyed the servers, destroyed her phone, and also had her aides destroy their phones by smashing them with hammers. The FBI, knowing she willingly destroyed possible incriminating evidence, decided not to indict her because they couldn't find any evidence that she had committed a crime. How about the deliberate destruction of potential evidence? How about that, huh? Is that not enough? Like, look at this shit. But her emails collection. She has a fucking shirt and a mug. A shirt and a mug. That's fucked up, dude. She's basically saying, hey, look, I got away with it, guys. You know, I did the same thing as Trump, but hey, I got away with it. Rules for thee, but not for me. Jesus Christ. And that ends the big lead for today's show. But speaking of shady politicians and government wrongdoing, what if I were to tell you that government agencies are gradually being weaponized against you? Yes, we discussed the DOJ and the FBI being used as weapons against Trump in our previous segments, but that's how it begins. You take out the political faction leader. Then once the leader is gone, you make your way through the faction strongholds until there is no one left because they are either in prison or are so afraid of prosecution that they have assimilated into the authoritarian ideology that has suppressed them. Now, if you're thinking that this can't possibly be true and that this is just conspiratorial thought coming from a right-wing nutjob, you are probably correct. But it is also possible that you are already part of the machine, which makes it difficult for you to understand the warning signs around you because you have been taught to ignore them. You are part of a herd of sleeping sheep who are unaware of the wolf lurking in the shadows. With that being said, this brings us to our last segment of the day, a segment called The Unexplained.
You are traveling through another dimension, a dimension not only of sight and sound but of mind, a journey into a wondrous land where its boundaries are that of imagination. That's the signpost up ahead. Your next stop, The Unexplained.
So this is a segment in which we will discuss strange occurrences, whether it news, conspiracy theories, a video of an object in the sky, a newly discovered cryptid, or true crime. With the new bill passed called the Inflation Reduction Act, another government agency has been expanded in preparation for a potential move to weaponize the IRS against the American people. This is not the first instance of a government body being expanded and weaponized. You know, you can call it a conspiracy theory all you want, but there are numerous examples of the deep state, also known as the bureaucratic state, spying on you, gathering information, finding ways to tax and track you, and even going so far as to pass legislation to create a registry of every American who owns a firearm. I wouldn't be surprised if they are also compiling a DNA registry in secret. The CIA, EPA, FTC, NSA, FBI, and the ATF, anyone you name that has a nefarious background is slowly increasing their budget. And according to Forbes, the Schumer-Manchin tax bill, known as the Inflation Reduction Act, which passed the Senate on Sunday, raises taxes and will give the IRS billions to go into what the Wall Street Journal called beast mode. In all, the meant-to-be inflation buster bill will dole out about $80 billion to the IRS for increased enforcement, operational improvement, customer service, and system modernization. Think big, really big. That $80 billion is more than 6 times the current annual IRS budget of $12.6 billion. How can the IRS spend all of that? You guessed it. The bill says a whopping $45.6 billion will be for enforcement, and make no mistake, enforcement is the main directive from the Democrats to the IRS. Get bigger, tougher, and faster at collecting and make them pay. Jesus. I like this writer. But let me ask this question here. How does giving the IRS $80 billion in annual revenue fix inflation? So, and another question, how are they going to force collection? Now, and maybe this article from Verify will explain. Yes, the Internal Revenue Service did buy nearly $70,000 in ammunition in early 2022. What? Verify viewer Ian asked if the IRS bought 700,000 in ammunition earlier this year. It's true. It's for armed agents who can carry weapons and ammunition. Let's scroll down here. Between March 1st and June 1st, 2002, the Criminal Division of the IRS ordered 696,000 in ammunition, the IRS told Verify in an email. The order was for the IRS Criminal Investigation Division, which is a federal law enforcement agency that conducts criminal investigation, including tax violation, money laundering, cybercrimes, and organized crime involving drugs and gangs. There are more than 2,000 sworn special agents in this division. Well, that 2,000 is about to get bigger. The IRS is going to show up at the door like jackbooted thugs, shaking you down for that $50 you forgot to claim on your taxes while issuing you a $1,000 penalty. Jesus. Now, you might be saying, quit it. That faction of the IRS is for criminals. They would never be used to come after law-abiding American citizens or organize against political opponents. Well, you tell that to George Regas and the Tea Party. Reason writes, just shy of a decade ago, a retired rector named George Regas stepped into the pulpit at All Saints Episcopal Church in Pasadena, California, a few days before the November election, and let fly with some good old-fashioned fire and brimstone. The targets of his passion, President George W. Bush and the war in Iraq, also conservative politicians, not to mention the religious right. Okay. Regas described war as the most extreme form of terrorism. Speaking in the voice of Jesus Christ, he said, "The killing of innocent people to achieve some desired goal is morally repudiated by anyone claiming to follow me as their savior and guide." He went on to condemn poverty, defend abortion rights, and so on. What happened next will surprise you only if you just fell off a turnip truck. The IRS came knocking. It threatened the church's tax-exempt status, demanded all kinds of paperwork, and carried on an investigation that lasted more than 2 years and cost the church $200,000. Jesus. And then Reuters writes, Justice Department settles with conservative groups over IRS scrutiny. The U.S. Justice Department has reached a settlement with dozens of conservative groups that claim the Internal Revenue Service unfairly scrutinized them based on their political leanings when they sought a tax-exempt status, court documents showed. In a pair of lawsuits filed in court in 2013, the conservative groups accused the IRS of targeting organizations with such words as Tea Party and Patriots when they applied to the agency for tax-exempt status starting in 2010. The side asked the United States District Court for the District of Columbia on Wednesday to issue a declarative judgment on one of those cases involving 41 plaintiffs that would say the IRS was wrong to apply the United States tax laws based on the entity's name, position, or association with a particular political movement. Jesus, sorry guys. We hope that today's settlement makes clear that the abuse of power will not be tolerated, Attorney General Jeff Sessions said in a statement on Thursday. The IRS admitted it was wrong when it based screenings of the group's application on their names or policy positions, subjected the groups to higher scrutiny and delays, and demanded unnecessary information from the groups, the arrangement in the Washington case said. So, like I said earlier, you can call the weaponization of governmental bodies a conspiracy theory all you want, but there is tons of evidence that proves otherwise. Like the ATF, who raided a religious compound in Waco, Texas because they were stockpiling weapons. It is not against the law to stockpile weapons. It is our Second Amendment right to do so. The ATF said the weapons were illegal, but there is no evidence to prove that. 76 people died because the ATF used military tactics to raid law-abiding citizens. Now, I'm not saying David Koresh wasn't doing anything illegal. I'm sure there was some form of sexual abuse going on there, but that is something for local law enforcement to deal with, not the ATF. In 2003, the FBI attempted to radicalize a 21-year-old Muslim male by having an FBI informant groom him with anti-American propaganda and then assisted the 21-year-old in planning a bombing at the New York Herald Square subway station. The 21-year-old got cold feet and left, telling the FBI informant that he could not carry out the plan. 4 days later, the FBI and the New York Police Department surrounded him at gunpoint, arrested him, and charged him with terrorism. He was convicted of a crime he did not commit, a crime he only discussed committing, a crime planted in his mind by an FBI informant. He received a 30-year federal prison sentence. And that was not the first time we heard about the FBI radicalizing American citizens, nor was it the last. They've done it several times since 2003. The most recent being Grand Rapids, Michigan, where the FBI manipulated and convinced 4 men to try and kidnap Governor Whitmer. They were cleared of all charges. The NSA were spying on American people. They forced Verizon and an AT&T to turn over all of their call records for 3 months in order to obtain metadata. They could use this information to determine when you called someone, how long you talked to that person, who that person was, and the location of both you and the person on the other end of the line. They also created a data mining program called Prism that could acquire your emails, chat logs, and browsing history, all from your IP address that was connected to whatever server you use, which means Google, Facebook, Chrome, Yahoo, etc. If that sounds familiar, that is because Edward Snowden leaked that information to the American people after finding out himself while working for the CIA. The DEA is the epitome of governmental agencies that is weaponized against the American people. Now, I hate the race baiting used by journalists when discussing this issue. The people statistically incarcerated by the DEA are predominantly Hispanic and Black, but I think the big reason for that is white Americans can afford, more often than not, a good attorney. The war on drugs has been a contributing leader to the mass incarceration of American people. The war on drugs was coined in 1971, and the spearhead of this coalition was the DEA that was created in 1973. The DEA has been the single most significant contributor to the industrial prison complex. They have assisted in the overcrowding of prisons while engaging in illegal operations and violating civil rights laws, all while having no effect on the drug supply in the United States. In 2019, over 20,000 people were convicted of federal drug offenses, the majority of those sentences including lengthy prison terms. Those convicted of marijuana trafficking received an average of 31 months in federal prison. The average sentence for methamphetamine trafficking is nearly 8 years. Half of those federal prisons are serving sentences for drug crimes. So I'm not saying these people don't need to be in jail. They do. But I think there's a different way to go about this instead of giving somebody 8 to 10 years for trafficking drugs. It's not helping keeping drugs off the streets at all. Fuck the DEA, man. They haven't done shit for us. The DEA has also halted research into the medical benefits of certain drugs, ensuring their classification remains unchanged. According to drugpolicy.org, the DEA secretly and without explicit authority tracked billions of international phone calls made by U.S. residents for decades. The Justice Department Inspector General in 2019 raised numerous concerns about the DEA's suspicious surveillance of American phone records. On top of that, if they couldn't get authorization of wiretaps from federal courts, they would go around them and seek authorization from local courts. The DEA agents reportedly received money, gifts, and weapons from Colombian drug trade organizations. This included participating in parties with sex workers hired by these organizations. Most concerning is the DEA officials were not fully compliant with the Inspector General's investigation of the allegations. Dirty, dude. There's more, but I think I made my points. So, if you still think weaponization of governmental agencies against American citizens is a conspiracy theory after this segment, then you are naive and you deserve the ass ramming the IRS is going to bring you with their shiny new pistols. And this was The Unexplained.
You were traveling through another dimension. Dimension not only of sight and sound, but of mind. A journey into a wondrous land where its boundaries are that of imagination. That's the signpost up ahead. Your next stop, The Unexplained.
All right, that is the show, guys. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the show, please hit the like button and definitely subscribe. If you do subscribe, make sure to ring the bell. I upload episodes weekly and I wouldn't want you to miss out. Audio listeners, you can subscribe too. Thank you for listening. But hey, you want to watch the videos we played? You can watch the Deplorable Talk Show on YouTube, Rumble, and Facebook. You can listen to the Deplorable Talk Show on Spotify, Apple, and Google, and Stitcher. You can find links in the description, or you can head to the deplorableent.com. That is the general hub for everything deplorable. Take care, guys. See you in the next episode.